Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show, Fernando.
Welcome to the show.
This morning, we have what almost looks like a Jeep, but it's not a Jeep. It's a Bronco. That's right. I think this is actually the first full-length Bronco video we're doing, isn't it? I feel like it is. Anyways, if it isn't, great. If it is, fantastic. We got a whole bunch of stuff going into this that hopefully you guys will really enjoy. Kind of a perspective on the Bronco build. Let's get started, shall we? Anytime we get into a vehicle, we kind of like to see what is going on, and especially when we have to explain it as far as like, it's a first look at what is happening. Now, for some of you guys out there, you've seen the Bronco, you've ridden in the Bronco, and you've been curious about the Bronco, or you already have a Bronco and you're like, man, what do I do? So we're gonna give you our spin on this particular system. This is gonna be a Helix audio control build, meaning we're gonna be doing Helix power, we're gonna be doing audio control speakers. But let's take a look at the factory system to see what it is we're dealing with. First up is this radio. This is a non-amplified, non-BO system, so it does not have the Bang & Olufsen system in it, and it has the smaller screen. It doesn't have the giant fill up the hole. This screen, I feel, is going to be replaced as time goes on. Not necessarily in this guy's vehicle, but people that buy Broncos that don't want this small screen, they want it to look more like the bigger screen. And hopefully we'll see products that will do that. This, however, is all one piece. That could be a problem. It'd probably have to be something that sits out here. Now, there is no room behind this radio. It's very tiny because the radio itself actually sits here behind the air conditioner and faces towards the bottom. So when we go to get the radio plugs, I'll show you what I'm talking about there. Up in the top of the dash for the non-amplified system, it has these grills right here that are 4-inch, that is matched by another pair of 4-inch that are located in the back behind that headrest right there. Speaking of those two speaker locations, a lot of people like to change those. So for in the back, they like to put a 6.5, and for the dash, they like to do a mid-range and a tweet. For this vehicle, we're just gonna be doing replacement of 4-inch that are audio control. If you would like to put this up here in the top of the dash, there's some guys online that make really nice 3D printed and acrylic mounts to cut this out and put those speakers in. Stereo Steve's makes one that's really nice. You could also get one from a Focal dealer. They have Focal Parts also makes those as well. The rear, here's the thing. It's a small enclosure. Metro makes one, MTI makes one. There's a bunch of companies that make them. The reality is yes, it is crossed over from the factory at 110 hertz, and yes, you can go and reprogram the factory radio to bypass that, or you could use a DSP that can DEQ. The problem is there's not a lot of airspace in those, even when you go to the bigger ones for the 6.5s. And so far with these that we've done, I really didn't see a benefit from it other than just making the customer feel good because he had a 6.5 in the back. You still end up crossing it over pretty high because you don't want the box to rattle. There's not enough airspace to get good deep mid bass out of it. And really, in my opinion, the fact that they're bigger, it makes it harder to see out of the back. I mean, you already got these giant headrests that are in the way. That's my opinion, and you're welcome to choose whatever you like. Last speaker in this car is the troublesome one, which is down here in the kick, which is the 6.5-inch mid bass. The problem with that speaker, there's a lot of problems in this Jeep, and didn't really want to go that way. That speaker there, it needs a very shallow mount, so if you're gonna buy the factory 6.5-inch mount that like Metro or Pack make, you're gonna have a problem. The speaker's gonna come out too far and it's gonna hit. There are people that make secondary ones. The problem even with that is that the grill snaps into place. You still need to take the whole kick off to do the speaker. It's just really flimsy. It does buzz, and there's not enough airspace in that as well for the 6.5 to get any decent amount of sound out of it. You could try, but it's still not the greatest. And for those, we'll be using the mid bass out of a 6-inch audio control component set. Some things to avoid when doing this install. Do not buy a set of 6.5 tweeters. Put the 6.5-inch mid bass in the kick and the tweeter in the top of the dash. You can if you don't like mid-range. That's a 4-inch up there. You're gonna be losing a lot of the sound that comes up here that makes it semi like enjoyable. The factory doesn't have a tweeter, and that is the big problem. Sometimes if you're just looking to improve this sound altogether, just by replacing these 4-inch with a coaxial will give you that higher frequency, kind of like the same thing we do in a lot of the Wranglers, where we take out the 3.5 dual cone and put a tweeter 3.5 up there, and it sounds a lot better. For a subwoofer, we will be doing the audio control tailgate door 12-inch subwoofer that'll attach to the back door here. And then for the amplifiers, like we talked about, right now we're going to be doing the Helix V8 DSP Mark II along with the Helix D1 sub amplifier to power that back door. I don't know if this is going to stay or not. I thought this amplifier's footprint was a little bit smaller, so we'll have to see if these will both fit on the amp rack that we make. Speaking of amp racks that they make, there are amp racks to mount really small amplifiers up underneath these seats. However, there's not a lot of room there, and what we like to do is come into the back area here where this pocket is, and we remove the pocket. We use this area where the factory subwoofer go to mount our amplifier. So we're making a panel to cover this up and make our lives a little bit easier. So that's our starting point for this. One other piece we're gonna need is this guy right here, which is the T-harness to interact with the car. Going back to the radio for a minute, if you've looked at these and you've heard people talk about them, there's like, oh, when I go past volume 15, I get distortion, and what do I do? And people have given you all kinds of options. Maybe, maybe not. Here is the reasoning for that. This is a new technology for the US. Germans have been using it for years. It's using an SB style amplifier. Kind of to think about it so it makes sense is it's like a dual stage amplifier where from volume 0 to 15 it is one, and from 15 up it is another. And that changeover period is where a lot of these problems come in. Helix, Mosconi, some of the other European amplifier brands do have SB load circuits built into them to avoid any issues with sound quality as the volume goes up and down. There are some high level to low level adapters from those same manufacturers that offer a really good solution. And then there's also the 10 ohm load resistors that you can get from Metra, which are purple. Those will also help to solve the problem. One of these solutions though has to be put into this vehicle in order for it to sound good all the way up and down. That's really all I got for you there. Let's get started on the install.
To remove the dash speakers, we're gonna use a flat panel tool. The grill sits under this part of the dash, but if you go slowly, that came out perfect. You don't have to remove this part of the dash. Here we go. We have 5 clips. I don't know why you need 5 clips, but then we have 2 7mm. The good thing about this is the speaker wire is actually long, so you can pull it out and disconnect it. For the passenger side is the same thing. Go slow. So sometimes you lose the clips, but they actually right there. Just grab a pair of pliers and grab your clips.
Let's take a look at the speakers that we're going to be using. These are the Audio Control PNW 4-inch. Taking a look at the box itself, 4-inch, 103mm coaxial speaker. PNW stands for Pacific Northwest Series. This is a very clean and like sexy box for sure. On the end here, power handling ideal, 50 watts. Impedance is 3 ohms, which is great for those Helix amplifiers because you can't bridge them or anything like that. And we'll be getting a little bit more power out of them with that 3 ohm rating. They do give you a recommended amplifier to use, beverage of your choice, as well as mounting depth, cutout size, and what comes in the box. And there is a QR code to sign here that says Nerd It Up. Inside we do have a cutout and an instruction manual. Has speaker talk, kind of explains to you what you're looking at here. More precise drawing, power handling, and stuff like that. Typical owner's manual type stuff. The speakers do come with grills. They are the pop-out type, where this sits over the top of the speaker and screws in. There's a bag of parts underneath one of them. Top piece of foam comes out to reveal the speakers underneath. It does come mounted in a full piece of foam that is easily removable. So if you need one of those kitty Valentine's Day box or a place to keep your treasures, there you go. This thing's ideal for that. We are not going to need the grills for this or the instruction manual. Put them back in the box. We'll set this aside. We'll take a look at these. So the first thing to look at here is the pretty blue basket that they made. It's that Audio Control blue. What I wanted to show you though was these little things here. See those 2 little holes there? They're on each one of these, and there's a hole here and a hole there. Those are designed so that these can be bent and or broken off. In a lot of situations, you have a 2 screw hole 4 where you just need to have these 2 screw holes here, and you do not need these. You can bend them and they will break off, which makes mounting a little bit easier. The tweeter on this, as you can see, is sunken into place, making it perfectly flat, which is one of the reasons why I've chosen that for this vehicle, is that the grill sits right on top of it. You can do something where it comes up just a little bit. However, a lot of bit, which some of these are, the grill won't go back on. This is ideal for that. Has a little tweeter mounted in it. The surround is made out of butyl rubber. The cone is a treated cloth, has a little texture to it. It also says audio control, it's kind of shiny. On the back side, it does have this rubber around the magnet that is just friction fit on. And the reason why I'm pulling it off is because I want to expose this right here, which is the tweeter wire. This is how you bi-amp these speakers, is you remove it from this here. This is the capacitor for the tweeter. If you're gonna be going full active like we are, I'm going to bypass this capacitor and let the amplifier do its job. If you still want to feel safe about it, then of course you can grab it on this side between here and here. If need to, you can peel the sticker back to get all the way, get this whole big piece of wire. I think we'll be okay with just this amount right here. We'll solder, make it a little bit longer so we can plug it in. But these will be in the dash, full active, so that we can have the maximum amount of control between the tweeter and the mid-range, and then the mid-range and the mid-bass. So this will be a three-way active front stage, even though the top one is a coaxial. It'd be pretty awesome for that. Let's take a look at what this is replacing. That would be this guy right here. A couple things to note about this, like we talked about. If you look at the foam ring right here, you can see there's like a slight line in it. Right there is really good to see. That is where that grill sits on top of this. That's what I'm talking about when I say I can't have something that sticks up too far, because it'll be right up against the grill, and then the tweeter might not play through the grill, or the grill won't snap back into place properly. This is a 2-hole 4, which if we set our 4-inch on top of it, you can see where those two line up. If you remove these two, this should go into place. We'll wait and see. We may have to make a bracket for it. I don't know yet. My guess is yes. This uses a standard style magnet for it. As you can see, it's considerably smaller than the one we're going to be using. If you decide to do a factory speaker upgrade from this to something like this without replacing the amplifier, this being 3 ohms is going to give you a little bit more power. However, because the magnet is a little bigger, it'll probably balance itself out, but really it's just adding this tweeter. This doesn't have one anywhere in the vehicle. This is going to make the most upgrade in it. And because we're putting these also in the rear, we'll be adding 4 tweeters to the vehicle, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, as opposed to 0, which we have right now. So this should definitely have a much better sound stage than it did in the past. This guy right here does not come apart. You can't remove this from this and mount this into here, but this is a plastic mount. There is a capacitor in it right here for this, because this and the speaker in the kick panel are on the same set of wires. There's only 2 wires ran, positive and negative, for this. So there's comes out of the radio into the mid bass and the kick, and then up to this, and or it splits off somewhere and goes to either one, but there's only 1 set of wires. We'll be running 4 pairs of wires up to the dash, 2 for each mid-range and 2 for each tweeters. Let's hop in the vehicle and see what this looks like in the dash to see if we need to make some new panels.